And a good evening to you. Ted Langdell coming to you live from the Yuba-Sutter.live News Center in Marysville. And wanted to let you know that about 45 minutes ago, an earthquake was felt, and now a series of earthquakes have been reported under the surface of Lake Almanor. And we'll go to our map in just a moment here. We are again live reporting an earthquake that happened, or a series of earthquakes that have been ongoing since about 45 minutes ago underneath Lake Almanor in Northern California. So as we go to our map here to show you where things are going on, let's actually get the map back up again and take a look at where these earthquakes were happening. The first was reported at about 16:19 hours. That would be about 4:19 p.m., almost 4:20 p.m. It was preceded on many cell phones by alerts that alerted people to the fact that an earthquake was about to happen. Since then, at 16:29, and this earthquake that we see here, this is the one that was the initial earthquake, reported 4 kilometers southwest of East Shore, California, along Lake Almanor. And for reference, let's zoom the map out and show you where Lake Almanor is in relationship to other parts of Northern California. Okay, that's a little bit too far, maybe. It is northeast of Chico, southwest of Susanville. It is northeast of Yuba City. This is the Marysville, Yuba City area where we're reporting from right here. And it was definitely felt. It was felt by some friends of mine that reported to an initial Facebook report that we made right about the time of the earthquake, within a minute or so. One friend reported he was in the parking lot of a Bel Air store and felt it inside his car. Another friend of mine in Arboga Road reported her car shaking. Several other people reported that they felt it, and we respect that if you did, you can certainly report to Yuba-Sutter.live or tag things in this particular broadcast that we're doing here. If I seem a little scattered, it's because I'm trying to do 6 things at once. Have you ever tried that before? Anyway, again, this earthquake was reported first as a 5. Now it's up to 5.5, up from 5.4. It was 1.5 kilometers below the surface of Lake Almanor, southwest, about 4 kilometers southwest of East Shore, California, under the surface of Lake Almanor. Now, what is Lake Almanor? Lake Almanor is a man-made lake made by PG&E back in the late 1920s, if I recall the date correctly. So, as we have seen here, there have been a series of aftershocks, mostly in the 2.5 to 2.8 range. We'll take a look at those. This is where the map was. This is an interactive map indicating where people felt this. We're going to go to a street map here, and as you can see, this is not exactly in an area that's been historically seismically active. There is Sacramento. Antelope, which is where my friend found it in his car and felt it in the Bel Air Shopping Center parking lot in Antelope, is down near Roseville, between Sacramento and Roseville. We are here in the Yuba City area. Lake Almanor is here. And as we scoot into the middle of this map, you can see just how widely felt this was. These are some of the rings that indicate where people felt this. So this was felt as far south as some parts of Sacramento. And as we go in a little closer, the strong shaking was felt into Susanville, over by Honey Lake. And this is the 5.5 now earthquake, and this is where it was felt in regard to where Lake Almanor is. The more populated area, Chester, is up in the northwestern side of the lake. Canyon Dam, where the PG&E dam was built, is down here at the bottom of the lake. And as we scroll in, I can try to show you what the outlet is. I can't remember. I believe it's a tributary to the Feather River. But the other epicenters of smaller earthquakes. This one here was 2.8 magnitude, 4 kilometers east of Prattville. So if we take a look at this map, and we'll zoom in, they're all in the same general area, but they're all slightly different in terms of where the epicenter is. And then we have another one here that is not felt very much, because again this was 2.5 magnitude, and this one was a little bit to the east of where the others were located. I'll try to make these about the same and position them in the same general area so that we sort of have an overlay effect as we go from map to map. And then there was another 2.8 magnitude quake that was about 3.5 kilometers northwest of Canyon Dam. Oop. This is known as live with your browser here. We're using Chrome, by the way. Canyon Dam down here at the bottom. So as we go from map to map to map, you can see that they're all generally in the same place, but not all in the same place. This one here is near East Shore. So far I haven't seen reports of damage, but in the course of preparing this I haven't had a chance to check around. A 5.5 is, if I recall correctly, about the shaking that we felt in 1975 during the summer when the Yuba-Sutter Fair was in progress, and I was working at K145 KOBO in Yuba City, and in the newsroom about to do a newscast, about one song away from a newscast in our 2020 newscast of that period, and felt the earthquake rolling the ground under my feet. Here at our news center in Marysville, we felt it. It was a kind of a north-south vibrating motion. Now this is the location, this is the map of the 5.5 earthquake, originally measured at 5.4. And this is where the series of earthquakes has been happening in Lake Almanor. Let's zoom in here if we can. Let the map reload a little bit. We had a report from a friend that lives up in Bernie, that would be east of Lake Shasta, up in the mountains there. And she didn't feel it at all. So this gives you an idea of the colors that you see. Red is a very seismic active area. This has got some seismic activity, but not much. And then along the coast, over near where the plates meet here, near Eureka and Arcata, they actually had one over there recently. But this has been, we've seen some earthquakes in the last several days here. Several of them today as well. But let's zoom in here if we can on our earthquake that happened at about 4:20 this afternoon here in Northern California in Lake Almanor, which is between Chico and Susanville, up in the mountains near the town of Chester. So here's the town of Quincy, Greenville, there's Susanville. Reno is off over here to the right, Paradise, Magalia, and Chico over here on the lower left. And as you can see, the earthquake reports are continuing to come in from a variety of places inside of Lake Almanor itself. But the main one was this 5.5 earthquake in the lower center part of the lake. We were talking about a 1975 earthquake. That's one that happened up along a fault just south of Oroville, and it caused some concern about Oroville Dam safety and raised questions about if the dam broke, where would the water go? And it revealed, as I was ultimately reporting over a series of months, that results from the studies that they did showed that it would take a while to spread out across the valley and result in water covering different parts of the valley. So again, we've had a series of earthquakes that have been ongoing in Lake Almanor up in northern California, several hundred miles from San Francisco, I'm thinking here. This is southeast of Westwood, southeast of Chester, I should say, southwest of Westwood, northwest of Greenville, and northwest of Magalia, Paradise, Chico, north of us here in the Marysville, Yuba City area. Let's see if we've had any other reports. I'm going to see if I can take a look at our chat online here. And we will connect our comments. See if we have any comments. It doesn't appear that we do. So if you felt the earthquake, you can certainly let us know. But these series of earthquakes have been going on. We're going to refresh our page here just to see if there have been more. We're getting this from the USGS page. It looks like they've had another one about 1700 hours, about 6 minutes after 5 o'clock, almost 7 minutes after 5 o'clock, about the time that we started our live stream here. So there have been a series of earthquakes going on. And again, this is the 5.5 earthquake that started these series of earthquakes off this afternoon at about 4:20 this afternoon, just a few seconds before, in the Lake Almanor region of Northern California, southeast of Redding, southwest of Susanville, or I should say east of Red Bluff, almost due east of Red Bluff, and northeast of Lake Oroville, and north of us here in the Marysville, Yuba City, and Sacramento areas. So you are watching news as it takes place. I'm Ted Langdell, and we're continuing to watch and see whether more earthquakes are happening up in the the Lake Almanor area. The most recent one, again, just about 7 minutes after 5 o'clock this afternoon, Pacific Daylight Time, 3 on the scale here. And this continues a day where if we zoom out and look at other parts of the world to see where they have been having earthquakes, you note that there have been quite a few in other parts of the world. Let's take a look, especially some that have been reported on earlier today in other parts of the Ring of Fire. There was one up in Alaska that looks like a 2.6. That also happened today. There were several over in Russia. What do we have here? A 5.2 northeast of north-northeast of Honshu, Japan. A 4.8 near Miyakomajimiya, Japan. Hope I pronounced that right. But as you can see, today has been a day of earthquakes. This one here was a magnitude 3.6, about 42 kilometers northwest of Toya, Texas. So even the middle part of the United States is not immune to having earthquakes. And it's interesting to note in the U.S. earthquake zone just how seismically active some places can be. Like, for example, north and slightly east of Memphis, Tennessee appears to be, between there and St. Louis, appears to have some active areas, basically east of Little Rock, west of Nashville, south of St. Louis, and due north of Memphis, Tennessee. Of course, we hear reports about Oklahoma becoming more seismically active due to fracking. Texas, not so much. California, other parts of the western states do have seismic activity. There's the Walker Spring Fault, which is in California, it looks like. Where is that? And this is the area that we have been watching. There's also the Almanor Fault Zone. Let's kind of zoom in and see if we can see more about those particular earthquake faults, because there are some in that area. Population up there, fortunately, is not great. And it looks as though if we refresh the map, we can see if we've had any since we reported the last one, which was just about 7 minutes after 5 o'clock Pacific time at 3.0. That would be this one right here, between the peninsula, the Almanor Peninsula, and the west shore of the lake. So there we have our earthquake report. I'm going to kind of see if I can zoom back and see if it picks up some of the faults that are to be seen. And maybe we can see it a little better. Ah, there we go. So if we zoom in here, we can take a look and see where some of these faults may be located. We may have to, here we go. Okay, so there's a series of faults. There's the Butt Creek Fault Zone, the Mule Shoe Mine Fault. This one here south of Lake Almanor is the Skinner Fault. There's one off to the east separating Chester and Westwood. That's the Walker Spring Fault I mentioned a few minutes ago. To the north you have the Almanor Fault Zone. And on the west side of the lake, this is the Rock Creek Fault. So no indication yet whether these were on any specific fault, but as you can see, there are some faults in that area. And the most recent earthquake, again, in Lake Almanor. This is under the surface of Lake Almanor, about 1.3 kilometers underground. And that would be this one right here. Oop, it'd be this one. But the big one was 5.5. It happened about just a little bit before 20 minutes after 4 o'clock. And so far, no reports of damage, but we'll check that out, see what we can find out for you, and come back if we have anything new to report. Live in the Yuba-Sutter.live newsroom, news center, call it what you want. I'm Ted Langdell on Yuba-Sutter.live.